Hello everyone, I'm a trainer of Uplatz. For more information on Uplatz, please find the website address mentioned in the presentation. Today's agenda of the session is connecting to a database. In this session, we will discuss how to connect different data sources to the Power BI desktop. We can connect to a different data sources by using Power BI desktop. But here in this session agenda is to understand how can we connect databases to the Power BI desktop. These databases may be present on-premise or it may be connected virtually, or we may try to connect these databases which are present in the cloud platform. Let's see what are the table of contents present. The table of content includes the following topics: databases in the cloud, databases on-premises, and database import versus direct query, and what are the advantages of using a direct query, and then what are the limitations if we are going to opt for the direct query. Let's see this topic one by one. Databases in the cloud. It is not mandatory that we have to access the data or we have to import the data from the databases which are present in the enterprise level or which are located in the on-premise. Even we can connect to the databases which are present in the cloud. Nowadays, most of the organizations, they are implementing Azure cloud platform in their organizations. So here we have the benefit from the Power BI. That means we can interface to the live Azure SQL databases and Azure SQL data warehouses as well. And even we can connect to live to the Spark on Azure HD Insight and SQL Server analysis services by directly connecting to all these cloud platforms. Those are Azure SQL, Azure SQL Data Warehouse, Spark on the Azure HD Insights, and even we can connect to the analysis services, SQL Server analysis services in the live mode. We call it in the Power BI as a direct query. And as we know, the association with all this cloud platform here is direct mode, that is the live mode. So nowadays, the Azure cloud platforms are widely used in the organizations because of their computation, speed, and other aspects. So here, Azure SQL database, it is a fully managed database services, which means that the Microsoft SQL Server for you and it ensures the availability and the performance. And it is a cloud platform. And it's a fully managed database services provided by the Azure. And here the data warehouse. As we know, we already know what exactly the data warehouse is. We are going to access the data from the multiple heterogeneous databases. And here, Azure SQL Data Warehouse, it's a part of the Microsoft Azure Cloud Computing Platform. And it makes choosing this database a virtual no-brainer for companies already invested in the Microsoft technology stack. Here, no need to set up a separate SQL servers or data warehouses for the companies. Here we are taking the help of the cloud platform which is provided by the Azure. It may be the Azure SQL database or Azure SQL data warehouse. And here the Azure SQL data warehouse, it's a petabyte scale, which is very huge. It is a petabyte scale, massively parallel processing. We call it as a MPP. It's a massively parallel processing analytical data warehouse, and it is built on the foundation of SQL Server and run as a part of the Microsoft Azure Cloud Computing Platform. So in this data warehouse, that is Azure SQL data warehouse, we are going to process a large amount of data. That is, data will be in terms of petabytes. In order to process this data, we are using MPP databases. That is a massively parallel processing analytical databases we are using. And these databases, that is MPP analytical databases, it optimizes the analytical workloads. It aggregates the data sets, and then it will distribute the data sets onto the multiple databases for the computing purposes. And these databases rely on the machines, and these databases will be present on the multiple machines. And the Spark on the Azure HD Insight, and it is also the Microsoft implementation of the Apache Spark in the cloud. And HD Insights, it makes it easier for creating and configuring the Spark cluster in the Azure. And it is one of the technology used for processing the data in the form of clusters. So for this purpose, we are going to use Azure HD Insights. So why we are exploring all these terminologies means we are going to associate with all this cloud platform by using Power BI. And that too, we are going to connect it, that too we are going to associate with this cloud platform in direct mode. That means we are going to use the direct query for associate with this cloud platform. It may be Azure SQL database or Azure SQL data warehouse or the Spark on the Azure HD Insights. And the point at which we are associated with, say, on Azure SQL database, and we start investigating its data by making reports in the Power BI. And whenever we cut our data or add another field to a representation, the question is made appropriate to the database. And we will see how we can connect to the databases which are present in the enterprise level. That means the databases which we are using on premises. And from the benefit of Power BI, even we can associate with the specifically to the SQL Server analysis services, tabular model databases. So here we can we can associate with the SQL Server analysis tabular model databases also by using a Power BI desktop. And to achieve this, a Power BI enterprise passages are required. And if we are not sure of the connectivity or the connection which we are trying to make, that means we are trying to associate a Power BI desktop with SQL Server analysis with the help of an enterprise passage, then if we are facing any challenges for associating the Power BI desktop with the SQL Server analysis services, then we have to contact the chairman or the IT office who are present in the organizations. And for the different kinds of databases in our association, we have to first utilize the Power BI desktop or the Excel to interact with inquiry and load data into a data show. We would then able to import our record into Power BI where a data set is made. We have to associate the Power BI desktop with a Microsoft Excel files first, and that means we have to import the Microsoft Excel into the Power BI desktop first. By this, we are going to make sure that we can connect to a data sources. That means we are testing the Power BI desktop environment, whether it is connecting to the data sources or not. And then we are going to connect to the different data sets which we are going to import it, or we are going to connect it directly to the data sources. So here the analytic services, that is SQL Server analysis services, tabular model databases, and it is analysis services is it's an analytical data engine used for a decision support and a business analytics. And analysis services, SQL Server analysis services, and it provides the enterprise grade semantic data model capabilities for the business intelligence. And even the data analysis and reporting applications such as the Power BI and other data visualization tools also, it can be integrated. And analysis services is available in the different platforms. That is, SQL Server analysis is available in the different platforms. We can take it as a SQL Server analysis services, which is on-premise. And then even we can connect SQL Server analysis services to the cloud platform also, in the cloud platform also, which is called as a Azure Analysis Services, and then a Power BI premium version. This is for the paid users, that is Power BI premium version is the for the paid users. So here the SQL Server analysis services tabular model can be utilized for the people who would like to perform the analytics, who would like to do the data analysis, and wanted to know the decision support, who would like to take a decision support of their business and want to perform some analysis or analytics of their business. And Power BI will utilize association data from the document alongside, and it revives settings we design to interface specifically to the data source and inquiry for refreshes. And those updates are then stacked into the dataset in the Power BI. Let's talk about the database. Yeah, till now we were discussing about the database on-premise and with respect to the cloud platform. And now we will talk about the databases. What are the databases which are available in the Power BI desktop environment? And how can we connect to these databases with the help of a Power BI desktop? Yeah, with respect to the Power BI desktop environment, when we click the database option, it shows the list of all the databases connections that we can connect to. In the screenshot shown in the presentation, we can clearly understand from where we are going to connect to a database. In the get data window, we can see the database option is available. When we click on the database option, on the right hand side, the list is populated. In the list, we can see what are the different databases available and what are the different databases we can connect to. In the bottom right corner, we can see the buttons connect and then cancel. Once we select the database in the list, if we click on the connect button, then we are going to connect to a database. Let's see how exactly we can connect to a database and what exactly required for connecting to a database. Either we are directly connecting to a database or we are just going to import the table which we are looking for the analysis onto the Power BI desktop. Let's see how we can connect to a database in detail. So to connect to any databases in the Power BI, we have to select the database type from the list as shown in the above screenshot that we have discussed. And here the very important thing is we have to pass the server name and the username password for connecting to a database. And we can also connect via direct SQL query using advanced options, or we can also select connectivity mode, import or direct query. So we have to remember here is we can connect to a database with the help of a direct query, or we can connect to a database by importing the table which we are looking for the analysis onto the Power BI desktop. And very important point we have to remember here is we cannot combine import and direct query mode in a single report. Yeah, we were talking about import and direct query. Let's see what exactly the import and then direct query means. Here, the direct query option, it limits the data manipulation and the data stays in the SQL database. And direct query is a live and there is no need to schedule refresh as in the import method. So the direct query option is nothing but a live mode connection when we are associating with the database, SQL database with the help of a Power BI desktop. And here, no need to refresh the data once we are connected. It takes place automatically. And we don't have privilege to manipulate the data present in the database because we are associating with the database by using direct query. And when it comes to the import method, it allows us to perform the data transformation and as well as the manipulation. Because once we are using the import connection, we are going to import the table which we require for the analysis into the Power BI desktop environment. And then we can play around with the data present in the table. That is, we can perform transformation as well as we can manipulate the data present in the table. And when we publish the data to the Power BI service, the limit is 1 GB. In the case of import connection, we have to remember that when we publish our data into the Power BI services, where the user can see our dashboards prepared in the Power BI desktop with the help of a Power BI desktop, the limit is 1 GB data. We can publish up to 1 GB data. And it consumes and pushes the data into Power BI Azure backend. Once the dashboard and reports are, or the Power BI applications are published into the Power BI services, it can be pushed back into the Power BI Azure backend. And data can be refreshed up to 8 times a day, and a schedule can be set up for a data refresh. We can refresh the data up to eight times a day when we use import connection. Let's see, that is, we can see in the screenshot how we are connecting to a database. Once we click on the database, SQL Server database window will be appeared, and here we are passing the credential, that is server name, and database is the option, and we have to specify the connectivity mode, that is it may be an import or it may be direct query, which we have discussed in the previous slide. And then advanced options we have to provide. If any query is there, we have to write a query for fetching the data from the SQL Server database, and then we have to click on OK. Let us see what are the advantages of using a live connection or using a direct query. By using the direct query, we can build a visualization on the large data sets, which is not feasible to import in Power BI desktop. It clearly says that we can connect to a large data sets by using direct query. If the volume of the data is large present in the SQL Server databases or any other databases, then direct query is the best option to associate with the Power BI desktop and their databases. And direct query does not apply any 1 GB data set limit, and this is also one of the advantage. When we use a direct query connection, we don't have any limitations on the data, like we don't have limitations up to 1 GB data. And with the use of the direct query, the report always shows the current data. That is, when we are working on scenarios where the client's business is updating on a day-to-day basis, or they're having lots of transactions in their business on day-to-day basis. In those cases, we can go for the direct query, which gives us the, or which shows the current data. By this, we will gain the insights which are currently running in the market or currently showing their business status, which helps the executives or the CEOs or CFOs to make a decision making on their businesses, which is very helpful, or we can say it as a useful. Again, though the direct query is having advantages, it is also having some of the limitations. Those limitations, like we can process up to 1 million row of data. That is the limitation of 1 million row for returning data while using the direct query. And we can perform aggregation for more number of rows, and the result rows should be less than 1 million to return the data set. Yeah, we can perform the aggregation and we can process the data, but it should not cross, or it should not return the rows which are more than 1 million, because the limitation is 1 million records. We can process up to 1 million records by using direct query. And one more thing is, like, the direct query, all tables should come from the single database. We are not going to use a multiple databases. It should come from the single database when we are using direct query. All the tables should come from the single database. And in case of complex query used in the query editor, it will throw an error for running a query. We need to remove the error from the query. Again, it's a time-consuming process, because once it throws the error, then we have to identify that error in the query, and then we have to optimize or we have to correct that query in order to run that query properly for fetching relevant data from the database. Again, it's a time consuming process. That means for optimizing, it will take some time. In the direct query, we can use a relationship filtering only in one direction. It is not possible to use in either direction or in the bidirection. And it does not support special treatment for a time-related data in the tables. That means again for the time-related data, we don't have more options for the time-related data when we are using direct query method. It is having some limitations. So in this session, we have learned about what is databases with respect to Power BI desktop environment. That means we know already what is database, and in case of Power BI desktop environment, like how we can connect to different databases, and these databases may be present in on-premise, or these databases may be present in the cloud computing platform. We have seen the cloud computing platform like Azure SQL Server and Azure SQL Data Warehouse, HD Spark Insight. These are some of the cloud computing platform we have discussed here. So we have learned about how to connect with the data, and what type of connection we are using in the Power BI desktop environment. Either we can connect directly, or we can import the table which is present in the database onto the Power BI desktop environment. So by this, I would like to conclude this session. Thank you.